Our next speaker is of Make Crime Illegal fame, Nick Delehanty.
Just first of all, well done to the guys who've organised this. Breaking Point, I'm kind of excited for the launch of it. Hopefully there'll be more nights and different things to come, bigger events. So this is just the start. And the one thing, everyone that's here, I can assure you, we may be early, but we're not wrong. We are on the right track here. And so when you ask the question, is Ireland at breaking point? How could Ireland be a breaking point? Our economy's never been higher. We're at full employment. We've just re-elected the same government, the only country in Europe to do so. Things have never been better. What are you talking about? But before any kind of crash or break, there are these moments, where times are good. And if you go back to 2007, times were pretty good. The pubs were full. The Tiger was roaring. And, we thought this was going to last forever. So I think we're in a 2007 kind of phase. We may be early, but we're not wrong. So, what has happened over the last 10 or 15 years, a lot of it, I'm going to echo some of the points, but Ireland has surfed the tech boom wave. We all know this. We have become a darling for international capital across the world. We are a tax haven with good Guinness. That's basically the size of it. But, that is running out. In my view, the crest of that wave has fallen. And I like to look at, moments in time. And the Apple money that we received in September is that symbolic moment in time where that was our peak. 2 weeks after we got awarded that 13 billion, Jack Chambers stood up in the Dáil, and this is a guy younger than me. He's never worked a day in finance. Here he is, Minister for Finance. I don't think he had a job outside the Dáil before, presenting a budget where he decides on the spending of this bonanza 33 billion in a day. I don't see how that's ever going to happen again. How are we ever going to have more money than we do right now? So if that's the top, let's stick a pin in the top. The next obvious question that people will ask is, where is the bottom? Okay, so is the bottom going to come over a slow 10-year, boil the frog type scenario where economic power and influence drips away from Ireland? It erodes, our political purpose and our cultural confidence. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. An awful lot of people I meet, sadly, are praying for a deep, impactful, immediate depression, something that wakes up the elite in this country, that spurs on political change, something that takes us off our current trajectory. Is that the right course of action? And sometimes what that says to me is that we've done the hard part of getting the money here, but we don't have the right people in power to spend it and steer the ship. And I often say, it proves a point that I often say, we don't have a housing crisis. We don't have an immigration crisis. We have something bigger, and we have a political crisis. And all of our issues are downstream from our political crisis. And so what is our political crisis? What is the moment in time that we can pin to say that is the moment? So again, let's go back. I like to look at the start of the previous government in 2020, when we had this historic merger of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And I think this does not get talked about enough. The old war was over and no new vision took its place. This was an amalgamation of a grand coalition of survival. There was nothing inspirational about this current government. They are hanging on for dear life. And sometimes it seems that they are just a managerial class presiding over a government and a country that's scared to look itself in the mirror and ask itself, what are we about? It's one of the fruits of this, coalition of survival is this concept of a rotating Taoiseach. It's something that drives me absolutely nuts, because it inspires no inspiration, ambition, hope, vision. It is just a pass the parcel of leadership. It's It's like, I will get to the top, and that's my position. I will hand it over to you. If you look back at the list of Taoiseach now over the last few years, it's starting to look like the notice board, the captain's prize notice board at your local golf club. It goes Leo, Micheál, Leo, Simon, Micheál, back to Simon. Like it's being passed around. That's not leadership, and it's not something I can get behind. Like, I grew up in a Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael house, and the fact that they've merged just confuses me. When one was in power, we had the other opposition, and they kept each other's in check. So I think that's a really important part of why we have a political crisis. But then, we must go back. Why did they merge? They didn't win that 2020 election. They lost it. Sinn Féin won it. So why did Sinn Féin win that election? Go back again to 2010 when Fine Gael got handed the ball. After 20 years of not being in power, they got handed a hospital pass. They had the Troika, they had NAMA, they had vulture funds, and they were just looking for answers. Like, I'm not saying I had better answers back in that time. It was a hard time. But when you kind of look back and do a bit of revision on it, they accepted all lobby groups, all ideologies, and all career men that came their way. They just needed answers and to create a fix. And when you go back and look at the amount of laws and statutes that were passed over the last 20 years, there's a real spike up in 2014, 2015. 2015 was the height, and 2016. They got an awful lot of work done. Work that none of us, I'd say, in this room agree with. There was a lot of social progression, a lot of paving the way for vulture funds, things like that. And I find myself looking back at things and go, look, that act was in 2015. Like, what was going on back then? And so in that space of time, we went from a country that built too many houses to not building enough, and that created this spur of Sinn Féin in 2020. And the amalgamation of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, which is a blocker move. And so now it's like, well, where's this going to go? Where's this going to lead to for the next 10 years? And when you stack all these things on top of each other, the way I see it is, I come back to this Ayn Rand quote, is like, if you find yourself that in order to produce, you need the permission of people that have never produced anything in their lives, society is doomed. And I think that's where we are with Cormac's window. He's like, I can't put a thing on my window. I must go to some bureaucracy, and it's some bullshit climate law or whatever ideology and NGO, it all wrapped around, and that's what it produced. It produced a piece of red tape to stop innovation, to stifle entrepreneurship. This happened. I was asleep when all this happened. I was working. I wasn't paying attention, and now I'm paying attention. So we've created a system where our best and brightest weren't going in to politics. We didn't see the need to do it. We went to work for tech companies. We went to work for law firms or whatever. Everyone should have a career, but we need to create an incentive. And I talk about this a lot, and something that I think fixes things. Like, we need to create an incentive that people work for 10 years privately and then go into public service, and they get a tax rebate. And so if you're earning £1 million for 10 years and you see you can get 20% tax rebate for the next 10 years, you're incentivized to go into politics. I just think, Cormac said, we need to think of incentives, and that's something I just always think about. We need higher participation in public service. We've adopted wholesale the woke ideology from our older brother, as it was put last week, big bro, identity politics, wokeism, virtue signaling. And the danger is, and the ironic thing is, that Big Brother is currently waking up from this fever. It is de-woking itself. But we need to realize that the way we got here, it was actually an awful lot of money was behind it, the NGO complex. And a lot of that was American money. And I'm just not sure how that unwinds. Like, I'm pretty confident America is going to beat this wokeism, woke mind virus, as they call it. But I'm not so sure that Ireland will, because where is the push, the same level of money to get behind and create the counter NGO class to combat it? I'm not sure. So look, I just think we need our brightest minds, we need our bravest voices, and our best business leaders to start stepping up and realize that if you want a high functioning nation and democracy, you cannot take it for granted, and you must realize that it takes high levels of participation in order for it to work. So I think we are at breaking point, but I do think that the next chapter in Ireland's future has yet to be written, and I think it's very important that we are the ones holding the pen.